Welcome to Silicon Pulse. Today we are telling one of the most extraordinary business stories of our lifetime, the rise of NVIDIA. In 1993, three engineers started a company in a Denny's restaurant in San Jose, California, with a bet that the future of computing would be driven by graphics processing. 30 years later, that bet has made NVIDIA the most valuable company on the planet, worth over $3 trillion. Their chips now power everything from artificial intelligence to autonomous cars to the servers training ChatGPT. With me today are the semiconductor strategist who has tracked NVIDIA from Wall Street for 15 years and the business historian who will put this remarkable story in context. Let us start at the beginning.
The founding story of NVIDIA is a masterclass in strategic vision. Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Priam founded the company in 1993 with a singular conviction that graphics-based computing would transform the entire technology industry. Now, you have to understand how contrarian that was at the time. In the early 90s, the semiconductor industry was completely dominated by CPUs. Intel was king, and the idea of a dedicated graphics processor seemed like a niche play for video games. But Jensen Huang saw something that almost no one else did. He understood the massively parallel architecture required to render millions of pixels simultaneously was actually a fundamentally different and potentially more powerful computing paradigm than the sequential processing of traditional CPUs. That insight would take decades to fully vindicate, but it is the foundation of everything NVIDIA has become.
Let me add some critical business context to that founding story. NVIDIA nearly died in its first few years. Their first product, the NV1, was a commercial failure because Huang made a technology bet on quadratic texture mapping instead of the polygon-based approach that the rest of the industry adopted. The company was down to its last few months of runway. But here is what separates Jensen Huang from most founders. He recognized the mistake, pivoted hard, and in 1999 launched the GeForce 256, which NVIDIA branded as the world's first GPU, or graphics processing unit. That product was a monster hit. It did not just win the gaming market, it actually created and defined the entire category of dedicated graphics processors. By 2001, NVIDIA had gone public and was generating over $1 billion in annual revenue. The gaming GPU business alone would have made NVIDIA a successful company, but what Jensen did next is what made it a historic one.
And that brings us to what I think is the most important strategic decision in modern technology history, the creation of CUDA. For our audience who may not know, CUDA stands for Compute Unified Device Architecture, and it was NVIDIA's decision to turn their gaming GPUs into general-purpose parallel computing platforms. Can you explain why this was so transformative?
CUDA is the single most important competitive moat in the semiconductor industry today. Launched in 2006, CUDA is a software platform that allows developers to write programs that run on NVIDIA GPUs for any kind of computation, not just graphics rendering. Here is why it matters so much. Before CUDA, if a researcher wanted to use parallel computing for scientific simulations or data processing, they had to write extremely complex low-level code. CUDA made it accessible. NVIDIA invested billions of dollars over more than a decade building this ecosystem when it generated essentially zero direct revenue. Wall Street hated it. Analysts questioned why a gaming company was spending so much on scientific computing software. But Jensen Huang understood something profound. If you build the software ecosystem, you own the developer community. And if you own the developer community, you own the future of computing. Today, CUDA has over 4 million developers, and virtually every AI framework, TensorFlow, PyTorch, all of them is optimized for NVIDIA hardware through CUDA. That is an almost insurmountable competitive advantage.
I want to put the CUDA decision in historical context because it mirrors a pattern we have seen before with truly transformative companies. What Jensen Huang did with CUDA is analogous to what John D. Rockefeller did with Standard Oil refining infrastructure, or what Bill Gates did with Windows. He built the platform layer that everyone else has to build upon. In business history, the companies that capture the platform layer of a technological revolution almost always become the most valuable and durable franchises. Intel did this with the x86 architecture for personal computers. Google did it with search for the internet. And now NVIDIA has done it with CUDA for artificial intelligence. The brilliance of the strategy is that it creates what economists call switching costs. Once millions of developers have written their code in CUDA, and once every AI framework is optimized for NVIDIA GPUs, the cost of switching to a competitor becomes astronomically high. You would have to rewrite an entire global software ecosystem. That is not a moat. That is a fortress.
And then came the moment everything changed: the deep learning revolution. In 2012, a researcher named Alex used two NVIDIA GeForce GPUs to train a neural network called AlexNet that demolished the competition in an image recognition contest. That moment proved that GPUs were not just useful for AI, they were essential. Can you walk us through how NVIDIA capitalized on this inflection point?
The AlexNet moment was NVIDIA's proof of concept, and Jensen Huang moved with incredible speed to capitalize on it. Between 2012 and 2020, NVIDIA systematically built out a complete data center AI hardware stack. They launched the Tesla line of data center GPUs, then the A100 based on their Ampere architecture, and then the H100 based on Hopper. Each generation delivered massive leaps in AI training performance. But here is the key financial insight. NVIDIA transformed its business model. Gaming GPUs sell for $300 to $1,500. Data center AI chips sell for $25,000 to $40,000 each. And companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta are buying them by the tens of thousands. In their fiscal year 2024, NVIDIA data center revenue hit $47 billion, up from $15 billion the prior year, a 214% increase in a single year. That kind of revenue acceleration at that scale is virtually unprecedented in the history of the semiconductor industry. Their gross margins are now above 70%, which is extraordinary for a hardware company.
What we are witnessing with NVIDIA is what I call a platform monopoly at an inflection point, a rare convergence where a single company controls the critical infrastructure layer just as an entirely new computing paradigm emerges. The last time something comparable happened was arguably Intel in the 1980s when personal computers took off, or perhaps Standard Oil when the automobile created explosive demand for refined petroleum. But even those comparisons may understate what is happening here. The AI revolution is not just transforming one industry, it is transforming every industry simultaneously. Healthcare, finance, transportation, manufacturing, entertainment, scientific research, all of them are being reshaped by artificial intelligence, and virtually all of that AI runs on NVIDIA hardware. Jensen Huang has positioned NVIDIA not just as a chip company, but as the essential infrastructure provider for the most transformative technology since the internet. Whether NVIDIA can maintain this position against rising competition from AMD, custom chips from Google and Amazon, and new architectures remains.
What a story! From a booth at Denny's restaurant to the most valuable company on Earth. From gaming graphics cards to the engine room of the AI revolution. NVIDIA's journey is a testament to long-term strategic vision, the courage to invest in platforms that take decades to pay off, and the ability to recognize and ride technological inflection points. Jensen Huang bet everything on parallel computing when the world was focused on sequential processors. He built CUDA when Wall Street wanted short-term profits, and he pivoted to AI infrastructure before most companies even understood what deep learning was. Whether you are an investor, an entrepreneur, or a student of business strategy, the NVIDIA story offers profound lessons about what it takes to build a truly generational company. Thank you to the semiconductor strategist and the business historian for this incredible analysis. This has been Silicon Pulse.